The opinions expressed on Tomahawk Talk do not reflect those of WVFS Tallahassee.
I think I've hit for the chair cycle in the studio today. Co-host, panelist, and now host for today. Welcome to another episode of Tomahawk Talk. Yamamoto, Otani, Sasaki, Tucker, Betts, Freeman, Glasnow, Snell, and as less than 72 hours ago, the prince that was promised, Tarik Skubal, and Chris Bubich. I'm Henson White, your host for today, and my co-host, Matty Ice. My panelists are Dalton Bauman and Layton McCartney, and Will McBroom in the production booth. We will probably hear from him relatively soon. Reminder that we will be taking your calls at 850-644-1837. That is 850-644-1837. Now, in Major League Baseball, the trade deadline has come thick and fast, and just some overall season updates we're going to look forward to. But the obvious big story is Freddie Peralta. No, it's Tarik Skubal to the LA Dodgers. The Death Star gets another Sith to join their ranks. Thoughts on the Dodger acquisition and what the Tigers received? Matty Ice, I'm going to start with you.
From what I've seen, I'm not too tuned in on baseball prospects, but I saw it was a fairly underwhelming return. It wasn't the worst in the world, but it was whatever. And I think baseball is finished after this. I think if you let a team like the Dodgers get a top 5, maybe top 3 pitcher in the entire league to bolster what's already the best rotation in the majors, I think they're pretty much a shoo-in to win their 3rd consecutive World Series. And I think it's just how the state of baseball is right now. I don't really know how else to put it, because the Dodgers just keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and you can sit here and be like, well, they got lucky the last 2 years to get to where they were. This team is better now than those other 2 teams, and the American League is horrific this year. The Yankees are probably the only team that stands any sort of a chance against the Dodgers if they make the World Series.
Rays.
No, absolutely not. They have no chance. So
0.
Yeah, I know how Will says the Carolina Panthers season is over. Well, now you can say the same thing about the other 29 teams in the Major League Baseball, and it's the trade deadline. So that's how I perceve it.
I'm not gonna go that far to say that the season is over.
I think I might know who's calling in.
There is.
Oh no.
There is a person. It might be a good friend of ours. Okay, we're gonna get him. We're gonna tune up the band here. You're live on Tomahawk Talk.
Hey, this is Uncle Matt calling.
Oh.
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. And how you doing down there?
Doing pretty good. The weather's a little better. It's been hot, but we're getting some rain. It's cooled down a little bit.
Okay, well, a couple of days ago it was 98 in northern Minnesota.
Jeez.
Are you serious? That is
Really?
That's
I'm sure.
crazy.
Crazy, right?
Gee whiz.
That's kind of like apocalyptic type stuff.
Yeah.
Out there, yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, I don't even know if it's been that hot down here. No. I think it probably has at some point. It's getting
like the feels like probably, but not the outright temp.
I mean, it's a state of hockey, okay? What's that tell you? It's a state of hockey. It was 98 degrees a couple of days ago. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Land of 10,000 lakes.
That's a good contribution, Henson.
That's named lakes. Okay, there are a lot of lakes that aren't even named. It's probably like 1,000 lakes.
Is this like a highway situation?
Every Minnesotan will tell you that.
Like where you can buy one and name it after yourself or something?
Right. You could do that. Well,
The Will McBroom Lake.
hey, anyway, I heard you guys talking about baseball here.
Yeah. Talking about
That
the
was
school
the
trade.
And the thing is, I heard through my contacts that you might be talking about this, so I'm not really prepared, but I'm just prepared with what I had to say
Okay.
about what you are all talking about.
Okay.
And it's a very small thing, but I think it's pretty significant. And this is kind of crazy to me because I totally agree with Matty Ice and we've talked about this, that it's kind of out of control. It's a money game, right? It's a money thing.
Starting in the English soccer.
What's that?
I was saying it's turning into like English soccer, where they
Nickelback's
just,
got a
the
manifesto.
top
Yeah.
3 or 4 teams just buy all the really good players, and they're the only teams with any chance of winning the title.
Correct. I agree with. I know nothing about English soccer. I'm sorry. I know nothing about soccer other than the fact that I'm not going to get into it.
All right, that's wise.
Because I don't want to upset anybody politically. But all I have to really okay, this is what I had to say. This is kind of crazy to me. Okay, the smallest, and I just looked this up to make sure when I found out this was going to be what you were talking about on Google AI. Okay,
All right.
the smallest television market in Major League Baseball is the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yes.
Okay, and it just so happens that the Milwaukee Brewers also are the best team in baseball right now.
That is true.
So, I mean, that kind of upsets that whole argument. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the Brewers are like the epitome example of development of
Epitome?
Yeah, that's not a
Pulled a
word.
sincere-
Oh
Henson.
my God!
You
What
pulled a
is sincere?
sincere.
Gee whiz, epitome. Gee whiz, man. The epitome of recruitment
Right.
and good front office work. As a Rays fan, a fellow team that kind of has to work in the margins, especially since the Brewers are one of those smaller market teams. But you had a Christian Yelich there for years as well, who was an MVP front runner in his prime. They've always been kind of at the precipice of being one of the best teams in baseball, but just not performing that well in the playoffs. They played really well last year as well, and even after consistently and constantly trading some of their best arms to other locations in the MLB, they still remained up there. So I think that speaks more to, if you are a smaller market team like the Pirates, like the Reds, you have to work in those margins. You have to find diamonds in the rough. They've obviously invested a ton into their pitching, coaching, and their, just overall pitching farm system to ensure that they have guys that can go at pretty much any time.
But I feel like that's the thing, Henson, is that these small market teams have to do way more behind the scenes to get anywhere near to a level of a Dodgers or a Yankees. And yes, the Brewers are the best team in the regular season, but clearly that hasn't meant anything in the playoffs because they don't have a World Series. And, there's a reason why the Dodgers are back-to-back World Series champions and have an even better team on paper than the last two teams, because when it gets to the playoffs, that's really when your depth gets tested. That's when push comes to shove. And, a lot can happen over a 162-game season. Injuries, bad performance, ups and downs. So I feel like the regular season standings, they are important somewhat, but, I feel like it's all about, can you actually finish the job? And none of these small market teams have really proven that recently.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, the Blue Jays were with them in the World Series, another one of the biggest market teams in the sport. They almost got their entire team into the All-Star game just off of vibes, even though they weren't that good. Now is kind of blowing up their team in Toronto a little bit. Well, I wouldn't say blowing up, but just kind of shuffling furniture because of their championship window, at least with this current roster not really working out this year. But they still they have the materials to be able to go, okay, we'll just shift down the road, rather than an Orioles who has to is actively blowing it up. We trade Adley Rutschman. We'll get into that later. But I do agree to your point. I do agree.
Right, yeah. No. And that's a really good, both unions have a really good argument. And I think it still makes baseball interesting. Okay, so, it's really great that we have this small market against the world, really, right? And we are past the All-Star break. It's not like we're only in the first or second month of the season. Okay, we're in past the All-Star break, and you're right, Matty. We'll see what happens. It's going to be really interesting, and I'm rooting for the Brewers. I'm rooting for the small market. I think it would be the best thing in the world for Major League Baseball if the Brewers went. I'm going to go back. I think it was 1983. I'm thinking 83, the last time the Brewers made a real run. They were in the World Series. So we'll see. But, yeah, got to be rooting for them. But thanks a lot, fellas, for taking my call. And,
no problem.
Yeah,
no problem.
Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you all later.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.
All right.
See ya.
Bye. Yep, bye.
Yeah, I almost turned Will off.
Yeah, I was.
You can leave that one down.
Yeah, no. We're gonna act like that one didn't happen. But back to that was a great.
Are we just gonna move past the fact that you said epitome?
Yeah, we're gonna move past that one. We're gonna move past.
I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as the word came out of my mouth,
I wasn't
I'm
even
like,
sure if that's what you were trying to say.
oh wow, all right. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, I hope no one says anything, and then immediately my co-host
Lights are bright.
it shone. I feel like must have been what Sam Darnold felt like in New York. But the Dodgers are now, on paper, if healthy, one of the best bullpens and rotations perhaps ever in Major League Baseball. But the real, and this is something that Matty Ice has argued on and on about, in terms of Major League Baseball, is should there be, as a way to kind of resolve that difference of small market and big market and make it a little bit more fair, should there be a salary cap in baseball?
I mean, if you've ever listened to the show and heard my opinion on this,
Never
you
heard you
already
talk
know
about
the
this.
answer. You already
Never
know
in
the
my
answer
life.
before it comes out of my mouth, because it's completely ridiculous, again, that small market teams have to jump over an additional set of hurdles where it's like you have to develop your prospects, draft well, keep those prospects, make sure they don't get the money bags in their eyes and, go to the Dodgers for $500 million. And the Dodgers can just sign whoever they want in free agency and just, plug their holes that way. And, their prospects pool is fine, and, props to them for drafting well, but, they're just, several tiers, it feels like, above the rest of the league, where, I don't know, I'm just, I'm the defeatist small market team fan, I guess.
All right.
So, that's where I've been coming from this whole time, and I kind of disagree with Uncle Matt a little bit in that I want to root for the Dodgers, because if the Dodgers win the World Series 3 straight years after all of the adding that they have done, that's just more ammo for the owners to use to create a salary cap in the league. And before anyone's like, oh, well, what about a salary cap floor? Why not just have them both? Let's have both a floor and a cap, which every other major sports league in North America has. And, the MLB, all the traditionalists.
They're also rooting for the Dodgers. So
Who? The traditionalists?
the MLB.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because, the owners.
The entire
it
country
helps
is
the
Japan.
owners,
Shohei
but
Ohtani, 3 batters away.
it's just, I hate that. But, anyways, just, I think if the Dodgers win, it's more ammo to get a salary cap and floor. And once that's in place, the small market teams, have a fair shot. Because if you look at the NHL, the NBA, the NFL, you can sit here and be like, oh, well, the MLB's had more recent champions. But, if you just look at the leagues themselves, you can objectively say that a lot of these teams at least have a fair path to being a contender. You got teams like the Browns who are just run by idiotic owners.
Yeah,
and,
it is the Browns.
and GMs, but it's the Browns. The blueprint's there for them. They've made the playoffs in the past, fairly recently. They have somewhat completed the blueprint. They just Browns their way out of any sort of contention.
It is Cleveland.
But the path was there. It was there. And for small market teams in the MLB, I just don't think the path really is there. It's just not fair that not only do they have way less money to spend than the Dodgers, some teams are spending 4 times less than them.
The Rays were in a World Series.
in 2020, and
The
that was
Royals
one
made a
World
World
Series.
Series.
Like,
the world is one.
The
like
D-backs
they,
made a
they
World
won
Series.
one World Series. The Dodgers are about to win 3 straight
The
World
Patriots
Series.
won 7 Super Bowls.
But the
That has
Put
nothing
that
to do
down.
with this.
Turn that off.
That's the thing. The Patriots.
The Bulls won 6 titles.
Yes, that is correct.
all in
Where does
1990.
LeBron fit into all of this?
yes. How does this affect LeBron's legacy?
Like that's I don't know. That's how I feel.
Well, the conversation about the Dodgers is interesting because they dodgered it for like the last 15 years before 2020. It was like, oh, like they're good because they spend money, but they always choke in the playoffs, and now they just don't choke anymore. So it's like I just don't. The conversation about them, and also the conversation about the Browns is interesting because it's like, how can you say that the Browns are like, oh, well, it's different because it's the Browns? Well, why isn't it different just because it's the Dodgers? Like the Dodgers are like it's just the opposite ends of the spectrum. It's like, oh, the Browns are just browning it. Well, what if the Dodgers are dodging it?
And
Like
even
by winning titles.
well, but in terms
Yeah.
of being aggressive, like I
Yeah.
mean, the Padres have been aggressive and they do nothing. Like the Mets have been the number one example of being aggressive and going to pay guys and getting nothing out of it.
Yeah, the argument for the Dodgers or for the no cap world is Steve Cohen and the Mets.
Yes.
Is that they spend just as much money as the Dodgers and they stink this year.
They had to blow it
Okay,
up.
so that's a big market team. You had their path for contention. They blew it, so they essentially Brownsed it. But they still had an easier path to be a contender. They've made championship series. They've made a World Series in the last decade. And a lot of these other teams can't really say that, even though, the Mets are the worst-run organization in the league. If we want to say that, then that's crazy that they're able to just make the playoffs, not all the time, but they'll, make runs in the playoffs.
But we made the point earlier in the pre-show about the Pirates are never buyers. Like these teams are never aggressive, which is where
because they don't have a path to.
they do have a path. We just established that the Rays went to the Diamondbacks were in a World Series.
3 years
They
ago.
won a World Series, actually.
I mean, so there clearly is a path. The same way that the Mets maybe have an easier path, but they've really screwed up their path now to a pretty bad point. So, I mean, and there's always going to be an easier path for those brands too, because just like in the NBA, where do superstars want to go? We want to go to the Lakers. We want to go to the Celtics. We want to go, the Miami Heat. But I mean, there's always going to be obstacles like that, and the league wants certain teams to be better. I mean, MLB wants the Dodgers and Yankees to be better than other teams. It doesn't mean they're against these smaller market teams making a run, but that's always going to be an obstacle.
But I guess what I'm saying is that the obstacles are for small market teams are just significantly harder to overcome than it is for the Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays, Cubs, or all those teams.
I mean, the Cubs spent a lot of money too. But is Nolan McClain Myles Garrett in the Brownsing scenario, where it's like he's the only guy that is trying to perform to his
Are
level?
you trying to put Nolan McClain on the Dodgers next year?
Perhaps.
Has there been any trade? Because I mean, the only thing I could think of was KD and free agency going to Golden State that has just made people this. I don't even know if it's angry as much as just like, oh well, season's kind of over.
I think the expectation. I think after Yamamoto, I think the mixture of the Japanese players going to L.A. and then Kyle Tucker basically going, well, I'm gonna go to L.A. anyway, and then the Skubal decision was always the assumption was always L.A. I don't think anyone is surprised he's ended up in L.A. I think the expectation was, okay, well, I guess if they don't trade him, he'll just end up there in free agency. But the trade makes it feel worse almost, because it's like, wow, so they get half a season of Tarik Skubal for like Zaire Hope, who's pretty good, River Ryan, who's pretty good. These are solid prospects. But I would, on the pre-show, I was talking about it a little bit. I did believe in kind of what the Tigers were thinking. Like, hey, we have this one last year of Skubal. Let's try and ride it out, see how far we get, see where this takes us, and not blow it up, right? And then if we aren't in a situation to compete come trade deadline, we'll trade them and see what we can get. I can respect that, but at the same time, it's like nobody else had a good prospect haul. No one else was offering anything.
Well, no one else wanted to just have them leave their team and go to L.A.
Yeah, so it's like it's a darn if you do, darn if you don't there, because it's like, where are you gonna?
You can say damn on the radio.
Well,
that one's fine.
I'm not trying to. I don't want to be the guy who gets the fine. I don't know.
Yeah, and the first time in the hosting chair, that would be a bad start, I guess.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I'm just here so I don't get fined. But damned if you don't, damned if you do, where he's in limbo basically. So now he's there, and assumedly, unless that Tommy John keeps nagging him, he's gonna be one of the best pitchers in the MLB for the Dodgers, who already have two of the best pitchers in MLB. Shohei Ohtani has been much better on the mound this year than he was last year, where he was obviously had one of the best offensive player performances in a season as a DH. And I guess based on Matt, we already know Matty Ice's answer to this, but are the Dodgers destined to three-peat after this pickup? Will, I'll start with you in the production booth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're plus 145, which you're getting
What?
awfully close to 50-50 between them and the entire field of the rest of the sport. Like, yeah, technically it's baseball. It's the most random sport, I guess. So, there's always a chance, but it feels much more like a puncher's chance as opposed to no, there are real contenders who can hang with this team. I mean, the Brewers are the other team that in the regular season looks like, they're on that level. We saw them get swept last year. So I don't see much of any hope for anybody else. Yeah, exactly.
I do just feel like it's been a bit of a perfect storm year for this to be like a three-peat for the Dodgers, because everyone else is just not playing up to the standard, and we know what happens to the Brewers in the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
So I would probably take them over the field today, but it's also baseball. Like, things happen. Playoff series go ways we don't think they're going to go. But I would take them over the field at this point. Yeah, I would, especially over anyone in the AL. I mean, I'm hyping up the White Sox because I think they're really fun. But Luis Castillo is a good get, but he hasn't even been that good this year.
Yeah.
I just think that
I just haven't seen them be buyers in my since the early 2010s, late 2000s.
Yeah.
At a trade deadline, so that's just fun to see the White Sox pick a guy up for once. But in speaking of getting rid of guys, San Francisco, if it was not for the Mets being the Mets and obviously also being in New York, so everyone notices how awful they were, they have had to blow this entire team up. The only guy that's kind of still stuck there is Devers and Chapman, but they make a bunch of trades at this trade deadline. They get rid of Arise. Arise is now in Philly, which is a good get for them, one of the best contact hitters in the game, which is now putting Bryce Harper in right, which defensively is not great at this point in his career. But the Giants have to blow things up. Orioles are blowing things up. And I think the Orioles trade is the worst trade. People are talking about the Skubal trade, but River Ryan and Zaire Hope are two very good prospects. What Rutschman got back for the Red Sox was nothing.
Yeah.
And once again, in baseball, it frustrates me when teams trade in stars within conference, because you've seen that guy and seen this team his whole career, and you're let's trade him to Boston. So now you have to just watch him, especially on a Boston team that's playing really well. Hey, here's one of our best players, just kind of for free, and then we get to watch you guys win with him like we couldn't do over here. So a lot of frustration for a lot of teams, but one team that isn't frustrated is the Rays. Picked up Freddie Peralta and Liam Hicks to play catcher. I mean, we talked about it. He hasn't played catcher in a minute.
Liam Hicks is not really a catcher. Well, he will be on the Rays, but he was a DH for the last 2 months on the Marlins because we have Joe Mack now.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll be a good bat. He'll probably come back up a little bit on terms of the bat because it has cooled off in recent, the last month or so, especially.
Yeah.
But he'll probably, become an MVP candidate with the Rays because that's what happens.
That's how it happens. That's how it works. I mean, Nelson Cruz was supposed to do that last year, 2 years ago, and that never happened. So, but Freddie Peralta should be a great get for the Rays starting rotation, and that's going to be really, really good for them. Matty Ice, do you want to talk about your Pirates at all, or are you
I guess, They lost 3-4 to the Reds, who are terrible. They lost to the Diamondbacks, and, they're only 3.5 games back, and they, tried to improve their bullpen, so I guess I'm not completely hopeless yet, but definitely approaching it. Got Luke Weaver, FSU legend, let's go.
Yeah.
Camilo Doval, who, let's just say there's more baseball to be played in that regard. Lake Bacher from the Marlins. I honestly don't know who he is, if I'm being honest.
Really, probably should be a baseball player.
He has a 3.84 ERA. That's not the worst.
See,
Got
He just comes in every single game, and you're just like on the edge of your seat because something bad is going to happen.
Okay.
He's that kind of reliever.
So we
Like
have
I
like
said,
4 of those guys already.
He was
so
the
that's
guy
great.
that blew the Yuri Perez perfect game, and he relieved Yuri after he gets pulled from the 7th, and he immediately gives up a walk, a hit, and a run.
That's how you do it.
And then we got Kirby Yates, I guess. I didn't even see that until like just now. So cool, I guess. I feel like he's washed, but I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. Either way, the Pirates are probably not going to make the playoffs. But
No, come on.
Come on. Believe in your guys, man.
it's been 11 years. Like, there's no reason to hope. But I don't know. Let's say they do make the playoffs. You know, I'll be cheering for them, you know, as hard as I can. But when they inevitably get knocked out, probably in the wild card series, I'm a Dodgers fan because the Dodgers are what they're going to save baseball by winning their 3rd straight World Series.
Over the next 5 years, which one of your teams is going to be in the best position?
Probably in the next 5 years, it's probably the Penguins. Although, I don't know. Like, I guess the Pirates have a good young core, but again, the salary cap, like,
Layton does not believe in that. Oh, you should have.
They have a good young core right now. They have a good young core. I know that.
Let's get some Pittsburgh Penguins discussion just to make Andrew Chaney mad.
Yeah.
Well, they're kind of in a weird spot at the moment because, you know, they still have Sid, they still have Gino, and so they're like kind of trying to win with them, like kind of getting them into the playoffs. Like,
okay, that's enough. Henson, take your show back.
Yeah, appreciate it. But Layton, you want to talk about the Marlins for a little bit? You got anything?
Yeah, we lost
that's
12 straight,
worse.
and then all of a sudden we've won 6 or 7. So it's been an up and down season. It's been fun. They're like good for like the first time in my life, besides 2020, I guess. But that was also weird because of COVID.
Yeah.
Their season's been going well. They've been pitching really well all season, even though that died in July and then has picked up since then. But we traded for another pitcher in I forget his first name, but Vodnik from the Rockies.
Yep.
And then I think
That's what you always
think
want
the
as a
Licks-
Rockies player.
Or sorry, the Liam Hicks as well as Braxton Garrett trades are smart GMing decisions. Yeah. Picking up prospects Liam Hicks was a Rule 5 draft. He was never really intended to become anything more than like a utility guy for Miami. He had a great start to the season, and then cooled off pretty bad. And then Braxton Garrett, I mean, I can't really believe the haul we got from him from Chicago.
I don't know.
He has like not been a big leaguer at all this year. He started 2 games and has like a 9 ERA.
It's a vibes pickup, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit of a vibes pickup. Apparently, he like clashed with the coaching staff at the start of the year about like adding stuff to his arsenal, and he basically told them I wasn't gonna do that, and so they like just left him in AAA.
Hey, learn a splitter. What?
Yeah, he was like, no, why would I do that?
Why would I do that? But I mean, Vodnik throws gas. He throws 100, and is now going from the highest point to play baseball to the lowest point to play baseball, which is Miami. But some NFL updates, headlines from around the league as we approach the season. Baker Mayfield and Will. This is has apparently just locked
in the
into
lab.
his room, in the lab. Deep dive in the Baker Mayfield Jordan Love comparison. Well, Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay have ended contract talks, hinting at a potential end to Mayfield's time with the Buccaneers after this season. Now, he has been one of the most interesting quarterbacks in the league to me ever because of how his career has happened. You obviously have his time with the Browns. Then you have the career revival and resurgence, and now he's in Tampa Bay for a few years.
Don't forget when he was a scout team D end for the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, I was like how do you even the Panthers like you come anyway, but ends up in Tampa Bay, has the talent to by himself to kind of get this team into playoff situations. And then roster construction and bad coaching have kind of put him in this weird spot where it's like he's there, but he's not there. And so do you think that the Buccaneers should pay Baker Mayfield? And what about just how the Buccaneers look heading into this season and the future overall? Baker is no spring chicken at this point in his career.
There's 2 options for Tampa Bay. One is you pay Baker, and the other one is you just rip this team apart. You get rid of Vita Vea, would be the first step of that, and you just tank, I guess, because you're not going to be in drafting position for a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield at any point without just fully tanking. In terms of guys who are better than Baker in the league, I don't think you can find 10 that are like undisputed. Like, there's guys like Jaden Daniels where it's like, okay, like, the first season I saw of him, yeah, he was better. The second season, he certainly wasn't. So, like, I don't know on that one. But even when you factor those in, there's really only 2 what-ifs, and it's him and Jalen Hurts. Other guys that are, like, definitely better, you're not going to get a Mahomes or an Allen or a Burrow. You brought up the Jordan Love comp. I have, in fact, watched every throw that Jordan Love and Baker Mayfield made last year. And while it's not a huge gap, Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Jordan Love. His surrounding cast last year, first of all, every single player on that line and in that receiving core were in and out of the emergency room all year.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Evans, which this is concerning for this year. Baker does, kind of need Mike Evans in a way because Evans is great, and also in a way because Chris Godwin is a shell of the player that he used to be, it seems like. The other guys are young. I mean, he would need a huge step from Egbuka this year, presumably, to be able to keep up that level. But also the offense last year was just kind of garbage. The line was really bad. And through all of that, they were almost in the playoffs, even in a bad division. I don't understand what the thought process is behind not paying Baker, unless your idea is like, okay, I guess we're just going to tank entirely. Which, with their roster, which is a good roster because they have a good GM, you can't really do that.
Yeah. I mean, they probably realized that Liam Cohen was the reason why his 2024 season was so elite too at this point.
He was great the year before that.
I guess so, but
in theory.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation. I mean, like you said, Mayfield probably sees the guys like Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy get these $50 million a year plus contracts, and he's like, yeah, I'm on the same level of those guys, right? But at the same time, he's a quarterback in his 30s, right? It doesn't. May not be the smartest thing to commit that many years to a guy like that, and I just don't know if the Bucs are on that level where they could contend, even if Baker's on that team.
Yeah, and his play style, and Will, you've obviously watched much more Baker Mayfield, all of it. But his play style lends itself to being very mobile and needing, especially with how that line was last year. He has to be mobile, and typically with this kind of quarterback, the legs are the first thing to go. Like, Matthew Stafford is certainly not as mobile as he was when he was in Detroit earlier in his career. But due to how he plays and how cerebral and accurate he is as a quarterback, you can get away with that, how good his offensive line is, how good his weapons are. But Tampa Bay doesn't have any. I mean, Egbuka was good for stretches last season, but he never was able to really get his feet up under him. And that's partially because of injury. Mike Evans was also hurt. The running game was just not good.
Oh, it's so bad. Rashad White is such a bad player.
The running game was not great. And when you don't have a running game, especially when you have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield who wants to sometimes just throw the ball deep for no reason, you need something to draw down the defenders a little bit. Everybody can't just work with this unstacked box because they know what is Bucky Irving going to do to us? ? Is not going to work long term.
Well, and the hero ball stuff is, that was probably the biggest issue, is when he just makes those throws down the field and you're like, well, obviously that's an interception. But usually it's like, okay, well, we're down 10. There's 4 minutes left. Like, what else am I going to do? It reminds me actually of kind of the Stafford-Detroit games where, like, yeah, Stafford would throw like 15 picks a year because he's playing in Detroit. He's having to kind of throw it all over. He doesn't really have any support other than when he had Calvin Johnson. And that's sort of the same situation Baker's in. And if I'm Baker, I'm like, okay, let me go. Like, I'll go to Minnesota and I'll get, in the Kevin O'Connell offense with Justin Jefferson as my wide receiver 1. Yeah, I'd much rather that than what's going on the Tampa Bay offensive front. And, for a team that in a division that has consistently been the worst division in football for, 10 years, maybe more.
Yeah, they're quite
but
bad.
they do have teams that are on the upswing. The Saints look like they're actually building towards getting better over the next few years. Carolina just made the playoffs. Maybe they have something together. The Falcons can't get worse. So
you'd be surprised.
Tua's gonna play quarterback for them maybe this year.
Tua?
The threat of him playing quarterback.
Is Penix? are his legs going to work?
Isn't he like 27 years old already?
Yeah, and he's had like
Oh my
4
gosh.
ACL tears
There's nothing left on that bone.
at all.
I really liked him out of college too.
I did too. That was.
Yeah.
Hey, he'll never be the worst quarterback out of that draft, at least.
That's true. I mean, his ACL is more than likely pulled pork at this point.
Yeah.
But just to
Fall off the bone.
To the bone, you said. Bijan Robinson's also just really, really good. So they'll be fine. A lot of
Have y'all
those.
seen his
They'll go their
hair?
usual
Yeah.
7 and 10.
I wasn't gonna mention the Bijan the Robinson haircut, but since
I saw a clip of his hair calling for the
he
ball.
called for those who don't know, Bijan Robinson was running a route, and he cuts, and his hair pops up like it was calling for the ball because he was open, and then he catches it. It's quite impressive. I don't know if he taught it to do that. I don't know, but it's quite impressive what they're learning over there in Atlanta. And Tampa Bay, I don't think they have anything like that. Matty, I have a question as a fellow Steelers fan.
Okay.
What would you give up?
Y'all see what Rogers said today?
Can we not? Can we not? I'm trying to have a good day. Had a good day at work. Would you take Baker? What would you give up for Baker Mayfield in Pittsburgh?
Ooh. Like, I feel like a decent amount, but like at the same time, if he doesn't get paid, he'd be a great quarterback to have in free agency. You sign him for, I don't know, like 3-4 years or whatever, and they can just be the old Steelers again and go 9-8 and make the playoffs every year. That's better than whatever the heck is going on right now.
Baker Mayfield hero ball in Pittsburgh would be really fun. When it works, I think they would love. They would love him. But
It's a better supporting cast there, I guess. I mean, your head coach that's one of the few places you could go that your head coach is, that Mike McCarthy is a better coach than where he'd be leaving. But why is Todd Bowles still the head coach there too? That's
Vibes.
gone on 2 years.
Vibes.
What
Yes,
vibes?
it is
What
vibes.
vibes? Have you
Vibes
heard him
being
talk?
terrible.
Not good
He's the most
vibes.
boring coach. It can't be good vibes at all to be around that guy.
Jonathan Gannon's not in the league anymore.
Ah, Jonathan Gannon. Hey, he's DC for somebody.
Is he back in Philly?
Packers?
No. Oh, maybe.
I think he's back with Philly.
Is he? Okay.
I'm actually I'm looking back at because in my mind, Bowles I was like, oh, well, he was there for that 2021 season, and I forgot he wasn't the head coach. It was still Arians at that point.
Yep.
So he has had one winning season. He's had 2 winning seasons, but he's had 1 season with more than 10 wins.
He hasn't won a playoff game.
He hasn't won a playoff game. He's just been in the worst division in football over those same time frame.
I just found an article. It's Packers defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon turning
Okay.
heads.
So
Wow.
where?
Why can't y'all just hire a normal defensive
How's he doing
coordinator?
that?
That's a great question.
Bijan Robinson. But in other news, and in more, a tad more serious news, there was a recent firestorm over the car accident involvement of Kyle Shanahan and the decision by reporters to not break the news until the Niners did almost 2 weeks later. Relatively recently, Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, got into a car accident, and it was kind of an open secret within San Francisco media, but it wasn't really shared with the general public up until the 49ers shared it, and then everyone was like, oh yeah, by the way, he was in a car accident. So how does that really tie into the overall lack of true sports journalism seen in the influence of teams in reporting Diana Rusi investigation, for example, the lack of reporting on Kawhi Leonard beyond Pablo Torre, who's found out even more about Rhode Island FC somehow.
Like episode 20 of these.
He's so happy to have this just happening in the background for him. The Saudi Arabian government's ownership of the Ring magazine, Shams overall in terms of not reporting on the Cavaliers and LeBron. Like, how does this kind of lack of upfrontness in terms of media personalities, especially ones that we are assumed to be bringing us the truth, how does that really affect how we're, interacting with sports?
For one thing, there's a big gap between, what insiders and what journalists are supposed to do. So it's different what, Shams and Schefter do there. But, in terms of the Shanahan thing, for one thing, like, I don't understand. Like, this is your job, is to report on this stuff. You don't work for the team in that case. And, it's hard to trust the ethics of people if they are like, well, the team is going to be angry in this way if I report on this. But it's been an overall fading of this even mattering. And ESPN, Dalton, you brought it up before the show that the NFL owns 10% stake. Like it's crazy. There's so many conflicts, and I included the Ring Magazine thing in there because the Saudi Arabian government funds like every major promoter, every major fight. They own the most important outlet, and boxing is not big enough to have like a ton of different outlets. This is really the main thing that's been going on forever there. It's owned by them. Like it's just a mouthpiece now. And to a lesser extent, that's just what's going on with a lot of these other places where this stuff happens with Shanahan, and it's like, well, I guess they can just say don't report this. And then I don't understand how you can trust any of the reporting when stuff like that happens and they don't post about it until the 49ers have posted about it 11 days later.
Yeah, it's become a problem in wider journalism, not just sports journalism. But I don't know when this shift took place, but it stopped being about building relationships to get the stories and started being about building relationships to build your career. And I think that is like, you lead to situations where people don't want to harm their relationships with the Niners or with Diana Rossini's camp or The Athletic or, the Ring in Saudi Arabia. If you're a boxing, media person, that you don't want to hurt those relationships in effort of actually doing like real big J journalism, as we call it.
Yeah, as we call it.
And it's ridiculous because like you're not doing your job at that point then. But you look at UFC. I mean, Ariel Helwani isn't allowed to go to most of their media events because of his relationship with Dana White. He's the number one voice in UFC media, though. So there are ways. I understand that hesitancy, but I don't know how you could really feel good about the job you're doing if you're not. And I mean, there's stuff with FSU media sometimes that even does this to a lesser extent, where like everybody feels so afraid to like call out. It's different with players in college. Like you don't want to, that's a whole different dynamic. But calling out coaches or calling out, the administration, be like, oh, I don't know, because like, what if I don't get approved for this stuff? Then what's your job? Then what are you doing here? Because you're not really doing any sort of actual coverage if you won't fairly cover it. It doesn't mean you have to take, personal shots at anybody. But yeah, if somebody does a bad job, say they do a bad job, and even that kind of ends up getting caught up in the reporting there.
Yeah, I mean, it is a rough kind of sled here in terms of the modern, and I think it's more so because of everything being so interconnected now, where it's like if one of these people doesn't like you, now you might be barred from things that you had no idea were connected to this specific thing. And I think it's because it's happening to people actively and happening to people within the media actively. So it's not just like a hypothetical, oh, what if I do this? It's like, well, this happened to so-and-so. And we have another caller, and I wonder if they have some opinions on the modern issues here with sports journalism. And hey, you're live on Tomahawk Talk.
Hey, this is Uncle Matt. Sorry.
No problem. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Tony Romo.
We were gonna get there. We were gonna get there.
You were working on that?
I mean, we're here now.
Yeah, we're here now.
I mean, I thought that was like would have been the top of that segment.
Yeah.
Romo's out. J.J. Watt, right?
Yeah.
Taking his place, from what I understand.
Not really a journalist per se.
More of a talking head. I mean,
he was seeing his grandparents, man.
His grandparents are dead.
Well, I'm not talking about Tony himself, but CBS certainly acted quickly.
Yeah.
We're talking about, is anybody being, culpable here or calling people out? And CBS, what was that, 3 days ago this thing happened, I believe.
Just about it. And they got him up out of there pretty efficiently. I think they just didn't want to deal with the media.
Yeah, I don't want that negative publicity, I guess.
Publicity. And it's also because it's Tony Romo, and it's not like a more... It's weird because, like, to football fans, yes, Tony Romo is a very, noticeable face. But in terms of the grand scheme of media and media personalities,
I think people know Tony Romo.
But, like, I think it'd be a different situation if this was, like, Jim Nantz doing this. Because, like, he's
I know some fun facts about Tony Romo. Tony Romo had a prenup with his first wife that she couldn't go over a certain weight.
What?
Yeah.
That was...
What?
That's something
Yeah.
Tony Romo did.
I think I
I'll go back
remember
to
that.
that
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Well, according to Colin Cowherd, okay, which he's the word, right?
Yeah.
Cowherd says that CBS was upset to begin with because Romo pushed him, I guess, $180 million, I believe, was his contract.
Yeah.
Because ESPN showed interest in Romo for Monday Night Football, and so that gave him the leverage to ask for that kind of money with CBS. And this little incident here, I mean, this guy, let's face it, I mean, unconvicted. I don't know what the charges are on the guy. They have, there's obviously footage of him being arrested and everything, but he hasn't been through the system. He hasn't been convicted of anything. I don't even know if he's been charged of anything. And CBS is like kicking him out because, according to Cowherd, this $180 million contract.
Yeah, it felt like an excuse
I
for
don't
them
know.
trying to get out.
Yeah, I don't think they.
Well, and unlike Tiger, he couldn't call the president.
No, he doesn't have the same motion. Got an OWI operating while intoxicated.
That's really funny, Matty, because everybody's seen the footage, right? And he's on the phone.
Yeah.
And he says he's calling his lawyer. And I just thought about this today. I'm like, was he on the phone to Trump? I don't know. It's like
He's bluffing.
who knows?
He's
I don't know
not
who-
really up to anything else.
Yeah, I don't
It'd
know.
be crazy to drop. I just got off the phone with the president.
of the United States, Tony Romo.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know. But, I mean, it kind of, CBS did call that out very quickly,
Yeah. All for an OWI.
but, and we don't know. We don't know. We have no idea what's going on there, what the charges will be or anything else. But J.J. Watt, I guess, is going to be on taking his place. So,
He came in pretty quick and fast.
yeah.
What are you saying?
All right. Anyways, I'm done. All right. Hey, we'll see you guys. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, that was 2 calls from Uncle Matt. You guys are getting
a new record
Got,
for
got a
any caller.
back-to-back
Yeah.
feature.
trial by fire. But quickly into, and then we'll wrap up as we're getting close to time here. The Protect College Sports Act and the effects that might have on Florida State. The Big Ten and SEC worked with Senators Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell to approve a late push to enact the Protect College Sports Act into law. While still uncertain if approved, the bill will implement a full salary cap and oversight on NIL deals and give a much stronger framework nationally to college sports, effectively ending the acute stage of the recent age of chaos in football and basketball. This would particularly impact Florida State, as teams will not be able to jump into different power conferences without being an independent for 5 years, while also capping conference membership at 19. Which is something that caused a stir at other universities such as Miami, Clemson, North Carolina, of course Florida State, and Georgia Tech reportedly. And mostly this falls on the fault of the NCAA for not properly planning for NIL and not having a plan to implement NIL properly. But is this a net positive or net negative for the NCAA as a whole?
Well, for the NCAA specifically, this is a net negative.
Yeah.
This is like their demise being written a few years before it happens, especially because, like we talked about pre-show, like the Big Ten and SEC are the ones brokering this deal in the first place. I mean, they've just assumed the role of governance of all of college football at this point, because the NCAA can't enforce their own rules and just lose every lawsuit because they keep trying to argue that students are amateur athletes that shouldn't be paid, even though everyone at this point disagrees with that. If the NCAA is bad, I think for the state of the sport, or specifically football, I think this is a good thing, because the unfettered spending, it wasn't just that it was like leading to the big schools are going to buy all the good players. It led to a lot of like backdooring transfers, stuff like that, that I just don't think is like good for a healthy ecosystem of a sport. So I think it'll provide a better framework for football going forward. It does create worry for other sports, though, and how they're going to fit into this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like 10 years ago, everyone's complaining about players don't get paid, players can't transfer, right? We add all these rules, right? But there's basically no rules, right? So it gets abused, right? And then we add this legislation, right? But you're still restricting the income of the athletes, right? And now you're restricting their movement, right? I feel like that's just going to set up another conflict down the road, right? Which I think is going to end up, like, what's going to come up after that is going to be the Super League. Like, I think that's the only way that, I said this on my first show 2 months ago. I mean, I feel like this is the only way that the NCAA, that any regulation gets into college sports.
Yeah. I don't think there's a way properly to, since we've already jumped the gun. Like, it's already happened. All of the things that we're doing now, you would in theory want to have had in place or had preparatory plans for in advance. Like, this would have been hey, we're going to step out and we're going to do this and that and this. Instead, the NCAA lost the court case and was just like, hey, NIL, whatever. Everyone just gets to pay whoever. And then the conferences were lost because of that, where schools like Texas, Oklahoma, USC were like, hey, we're in the Big 12 and the Pac-12. There aren't really teams of this same stature that we hold ourselves to. We're going to go to the SEC and the Big 10. And then naturally, this just makes those two conferences the two biggest conferences because of these brands. And it's obviously focused on football. And as someone who likes a lot of other college sports other than football, that is one of the biggest losers for all of this. I think it'll help stabilize a lot. But I do think a lot of history and rivalries is really affected by all of this maneuvering around because teams are no longer able to play each other as easily as they would have been in the same conference. Like if Florida State goes to the SEC, assumedly one of the ACC teams would follow them. But if they don't, do you now have to – how many conference games are scheduled? How would you still have the rivalry with Miami, Clemson, teams that you've played – pretty much everyone in our age group and a tad older has seen the university play for decades at this point. Does that go away? Do you only see that maybe in like a basketball or a soccer or something of that nature? What does that do to the history of these universities? Not just obviously Florida State, but UCLA, Oregon, who doesn't has to go out of their way to schedule Oregon State. Like the history is weakened here.
Honestly, I didn't really think about the fact that, the rivalries, like you said, are going to be negatively affected because of that. And, for Florida State, it really does suck because now they're pretty much locked into the ACC until the SEC and Big Ten break away. It is good for football because, again, the wild, wild west of the NIL era would be over. But again, it like y'all said, it wouldn't be that beneficial to a soccer or a volleyball or like a softball maybe where, they're not going to make quite as much money and they're not going to be thought about as much over football in basketball because those are the money-making sports. And, honestly, maybe a controversial opinion to have, but go ahead, SEC and Big Ten, break away because they can, if they want to, they can go ahead. They can go ahead and form the College Football Confederacy while the rest of us can sit here and watch the real.
It's all anyone will watch.
They can sit here and watch the real college football because they can go out and they'll be the new UFL. They can just do their own thing.
This would be the new UFL when you have Kansas State and Louisville playing in the national title.
Okay, but at least
Arkansas, Missouri's moving the needle that much.
Yeah, oh man, no, Arkansas. Yeah, those teams would never win a title ever because they're terrible.
And do you think? And I think the assumption is always they're going to keep all these already pre-existing SEC teams. But if they are in a situation where it's hey, we have to, limit to this amount. Some of these universities that are in the SEC are gone.
Well, no, I think somebody has to be there to get beat up on, too.
They'll let you.
You need Vandy in Kentucky.
No.
And those schools are fine with it because they'll make the rev share.
Yeah. I mean, and the effort, who are they switching these teams out for? Matty Ice, you said, whenever the SEC and Big Ten break, you're assuming they would want Florida State. What about what Florida State has done recently has made them desirable in the least?
I never said they wanted Florida State. Okay. I said they were locked out because they'll probably be broken away by the time FSU serves their 5 years as an independent. Also, I'm sure there's probably some legislation in there for Notre Dame that they get to pick whatever conference they want.
There pretty much is, yeah.
They get to contractually make the playoffs every year regardless of record because they deserve it. They deserve it.
But what about Florida State would be? Because there is still this assumption Florida State's stuck in the ACC now. They've been a bad partner in the ACC. They're not monetarily close to what Miami is, to what North Carolina can be. at this exact moment. Like, in terms of what they can provide to these teams, if they're going to go to the Big Ten, the conference caps would mess with that for one thing because there's only one more spot. They would take Notre Dame for that, and they're not just going to take one team that's in Florida. They would do what they did with the Pac-12, where you're like, okay, fine, we'll take Florida State, North Carolina, Clemson, or something like that, so you at least have some geographical connection. You're not just going to have, unless you're the Big 12, I guess, who was like, yeah, let's just have UCF for no reason. Florida State is in no way more desirable right now. Certainly not than Notre Dame, who's, a top 3 brand that you would want in the sport. Not than Clemson, not than North Carolina, not than Miami right now. I mean, they're much more on par with a Virginia at this point than they are with those brands. And, overall, I think this is kind of the best case for them because it keeps the ACC relevant right now. I mean, it keeps the Big Ten and SEC happy. They don't want to break away.
The new college football.
Yeah. They would. They
Union
would technically.
College
And
football.
they'd get to play Kansas
Simmons
in a
of
non-conference
ACC.
matchup. So.
Yeah. And then the question would be, if they do separate to that level, still the rival, would you just never play Florida again? Would that are you not allowed to play that team anymore in football?
I don't think that would happen. But I mean, in that hypothetical, yeah, probably not.
Well, those games are the most profitable, so they would make it happen.
They'd figure it out. It's at the start of the season instead, actually, and so that it doesn't affect
first game of the season.
Super conference.
But would Florida not do what Oregon and Washington did and just go, well, Georgia's actually our biggest rival at that point? I mean, that's what Washington did. Well, we don't really need Washington State. We hated Oregon more the whole time anyways. They've always been more of our equal.
Tennessee, Georgia. I mean, they still have
Oklahoma
they still
State.
have the rivalries there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of assuming that some of the historic effects will still be there, but others will be can just be ignored. I think all of them are on the table. And at the same time, and I guess we'll wrap with this, Florida State being in the ACC and being the best of the ACC there's an SEC, the SEC and Big Ten are the top 2 conferences, but you're still a respectable level and competitive team instead of going to an SEC and possibly being 7-5 in perpetuity. And it's remember when in the 90s and the 2000s, but it will come to pass as legislation. This takes a lot of time. This is not a tomorrow issue, but it's of something that's going to be on a lot of, decision makers' minds coming soon. Quickly, winners and losers. I'm going to start with you, Matty Ice.
All right. Oh, don't have it on the copy.
Well, that's not quickly, Matty.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, how about this, Will? My winner, the Dodgers. They just won 3 straight World Series. Loser, literally every other MLB team. 0 reason to watch. Just stop watching. There's no point in watching the rest of the MLB season.
All right,
how about that?
Turning off the
That was good.
Man. I like baseball.
Yeah. Dalton?
Don't watch.
My winner is the 49ers electrical substation. 4 of their 8
Undefeated.
draft picks in 2026 are now hurt, so just feeding into the conspiracy theories there. And loser, I have Gianni Infantino, a textbook case
That's
of
a
shooting
good
yourself
loser.
in the foot. I mean, more nations and organizations are piling on him every day to resign, withdrawing their support for his re-election. So my boy GI is in a little bit of a pickle there.
Your boy.
Not my boy,
boy.
but
GI?
Yeah. Layton.
Winner's Tom Holland, another box office winner for me. This guy is making so much money. It's unbelievable at the box office for Spider-Man
he'll go $1 billion.
Odyssey, and then he'll be in Doomsday later this year, although everyone should go see Dune Part 3 instead on that day.
Yeah.
And my
I'm
loser's
gonna go see
MLB.
Doomsday.
My loser is the MLBPA because we stand in solidarity with the billionaire owners instead of the greedy
There we
proletariat
go.
players.
Agree. Will.
Winner, William Zepeda, had a great fight with Lamont Roach, wins by a good distance. He's back in the running. It's some boxing talk. Haven't been able to get to that recently. So if anybody's not watching boxing, by the way, check it out. Some good stuff happening. Loser, Toronto Raptors. It sounds like they might not get Kawhi. So they might just be stuck with Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram doesn't know where he's playing next year. Not that it matters to anybody. So yeah, shout out. I guess that's more Brandon Ingram being the loser,
Why has to
honestly.
go spend a year in Europe or something?
Yeah. Dagestan and forget.
Would anybody notice?
Maybe. My winner is going to be the Rays, obviously buying at the deadline. Getting Freddie Peralta, that's a huge get. Loser, the WPB National Anthem. The Los Angeles Queens defeated the New York Heights 10-8 in their inaugural game and then had one of the most interesting national anthems perhaps I've ever listened to. You should go listen to it if you have the chance. And then watch the game. It was a pretty good game. And that's it for Tomahawk Talk. We will be here next Monday. Check out The Graveyard Shift wherever you get your podcast. Follow V89 Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website with all of our writing and photography. I'm your host, Henson White, for my co-host, Matty Ice. Tonight's panelists, Dalton Bauman and Layton McCartney. And our producer, Will McBroom. You've been listening to WVFS Tallahassee, the voice of Florida State.